Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Here are your hosts, Jmann and Nick, the Midwest motherfuckers.
Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm Jmann, and this is a solo political rant. Today's topic is Black Lives Matter and what's going on right now at Como Park High School. And if you don't know what's going on, let me fill you in. They're all up in arms about some teacher and some things that he put on Facebook and in his own personal blog that they think are deeply racist and he should be fired for. And I don't agree with them at all. I think they're being fucking assholes. So here's the story. A special education teacher at Como Park High named Theo Olson, he went online and he ranted a little bit about his frustration with the St. Paul Public School District. And if you don't know what's going on there, fights are up this year, exponentially. They've already got at this point in the year more than they had all of last year. There was another school where a teacher got body slammed to the floor and has a traumatic brain injury and is now suing the school. So at this school, also, a couple of kids walked into a science lab to disrupt a class to start a fight. It spilled out in the hallway. A teacher tried to stop it, and he ended up getting hit in the head, and the video is all over the internet if you want to search for it. But Mr. Olson's ideas are that the schools are not safe and the district's not doing enough to punish these kids because, frankly, they're worried that anything they do to punish anybody is going to get them sued. It's another instance of America's gears coming to a grinding halt because everybody's afraid that they're going to hurt someone's feelings or they're going to get in trouble or some bullshit like that. And I, for one, am sick of it. And here's what Theo Olson said. Anyone care to explain to me the school-to-prison pipeline my colleagues and I have somehow created or perpetuated or not done enough to interrupt? And another one. Because if you can't prove it, the campaigns you've waged to deconstruct adult authority in my building by enabling student misconduct, you seriously owe us real teachers an apology. Actually, an apology won't cut it. That's just him voicing his frustration with the fact that the teachers are powerless against these kids that won't stop texting. They won't stop playing games on their phone. They won't stop having private conversations and disrupting class. They plan to have fights, wait for the actual classes to start, and then they go into a classroom that they're not even in that one, and they go start a fight there, and it spills out in the hall or whatever. The kids are assholes. They're starting fights. They don't give a fuck about authority. They're not listening to authority, and the schools aren't suspending them because they have this new policy on behavioral equity, that you can't suspend more black kids than you do white kids or Asians or Latinos. So now there's like this hypersensitivity idea going on where everybody's waiting to see if you're punishing more black kids. And who's going to jump on that bandwagon? Black Lives Matter. Yay! Yay for them and all the fun shit that they cause us to hear about on the news. Maybe you support them. I can't. I can't fucking make my peace with their tactics. All right? Because in addition to these two little snippets I read from his blog, Theo Olson, he writes a lot of stories on his blog like an author. He takes instances that happen to him. He changes the names, some of the details, sometimes the genders, and he puts them in there. Because he's used what they deem stereotypically racist names, they want him fired. They think because he's done that, that he's singling out black students. Well, first off, I'm pretty sure the St. Paul Public School District, and Como Park High especially, is a very ethnically diverse school. And by that, what I mean is it's not all white. So he's not just picking on black kids. All right, he's picking on all the kids. And just because a disproportionate amount of some of the stories he tells seems to reflect poorly upon black students, it's because there's a higher concentration of black students at this school. And more importantly, a higher frequency of the black students being responsible for behaviors that would get them or given detention or suspended. Let's just get that out there. It's statistical information. If you have more black kids, there's going to be more black kids getting in trouble because they outnumber the white kids or the Asians or Latinos. Now, if he had written more stories, I guess, and switched the ethnicity to stereotypically Latino names like Pablo or Pedro or Jose or some shit, I don't think that anybody would be rising up a movement to have him fired because Black Lives Matter threatened to march on the school and shut the school down so nobody could get in and out over the fact that they want this guy fired. Let's think about that new precedent, that they think that they can just say, hey, we're going to shut down your ability to drive on the road. We're going to shut down the airport. We're going to stop everybody from being able to do things that are completely unrelated to our cause, to inconvenience them, to force them to hear our voices. And if people say things that we don't like, if they talk in a way that we find to be discriminatory, well, we're going to push for them to be fired. You know what that is? It's strong-arm censorship. They're trying to stop people from having conversations that address issues that affect all races, but because a higher frequency of the people involved happen to be black, or because the stories he tells involves black students, they have to instantly assume that this guy's racist. This is what they've done from the start. They go in and they point the finger and they call you racist, and what they're trying to do is censor you. They're trying to stop an intelligent conversation from being had. They're trying to stifle you. They shoehorn their will on society by playing the race card, which makes people uncomfortable, and therefore they think it discourages people from acting. Because people don't want to be called a racist. Because once you're called a racist, you're on the defensive. Nobody wants that shit. Nobody wants to be painted into a corner and thought that they have prejudicial ideals about segments of the population where they work, where they go to school, where they shop, any of that crap. And to say that this guy's a racist without highlighting instances, he didn't use pejorative slang terms. He didn't call anybody nigger. He didn't call anybody a jungle bunny or a porch monkey or any of that other shit. He didn't slur anybody. He just told stories of what happens at the school he works at to let people know what teachers really have to face these days. And I, for one, give him a big thumbs up for being brave enough to do that, because you got so many people looking to shut you up these days. And you can't tell anybody in the Black Lives Matter movement that someone of color is doing anything wrong, because if you do, somehow it magically makes you racist. And it's frustrating because it happens to me because I work in corrections. You got black inmates, and if I have to tell them they're doing something wrong, they instantly go, oh, is it because I'm black? Like, that's racist. You're racist. No, I'm not. If you were white and you were doing it, you'd be in trouble too. If you were Latino or Asian or Native American, if you were gay or straight, tall or short, man or woman, I got a fucking job to do, and I do my job. I don't need you to sit there and just try to poison everybody's opinion of me with your hyperbolic statements about the racial nature of the way that I conduct my business and my duties at work. And the same goes for this fucking teacher. They're trying to stifle the conversation. Black Lives Matter is upset. More importantly, it seems like Black America these days there's a line in the sand. The ones that don't piss and moan and don't play the race card, and the ones that do. And I'm talking about the half that plays the race card constantly, because they do it for everything. You can't do that. If you say that everything's offensive and everyone's racist, then nothing's offensive and nothing's racist, because what's the benchmark to declare what actually is? Nobody can discern what is or isn't racist if it all falls under one giant umbrella. It's fucking preposterous is what it is. So you got this guy, he wants to tell everybody how shitty of an environment he has to work in, and the teachers are scared. And this is during a time when the St. Paul Public School District teachers are fighting for a new contract. And what they want is not necessarily more money, but a bigger budget so they can have more support staff. Classrooms are overcrowded. These kids aren't listening. They want more counselors, school liaison officers, support staff to come in and deal with these issues so it doesn't disrupt actual classroom time, so the kids that want to fucking learn can learn. Because all these teachers are like, well, geez, I can't get these kids in trouble thanks to all of the punishment equity rules. Well, we got one too many black kids getting in trouble. Well, looks like I'm going to be charged with racism, or they're going to skate on this because they're black and too many black kids have already gotten in trouble. What does this solve, Black Lives Matter? How does it help anybody? So to deconstruct the situation, Miss Valerie Silva, she is the superintendent of the St. Paul School District. She met with Black Lives Matter's leader and said, you're not going to shut down my school. They had a meeting. I don't know how long it lasted. I don't know what was said. But I do know that afterwards, they said they were still going to find a way to demonstrate, and they still wanted him fired, but they wouldn't march on the school. Bravo. However, they put Theo Olson on administrative leave, and they didn't even say what it was about at first. It took days for him to go from being in the classroom to at home to knowing why he's at home. And the news media outlets around here covered it. Like Care 11 had a camera at his house, and people are supporting him. And that's why there's this movement called I Support Theo, because Theo wants safer schools. Theo is frustrated because he wants to teach. He wants to be able to accomplish his goals as an educator. But all Black Lives Matter wants to do is let their kids get away with all kinds of shit. Don't you tell me my kid's not special. Don't you say my kid's doing wrong. Calm the fuck down. There's a deeper underlying issue than prejudice here. All right, it's not about race. When you make everything about race like Black Lives Matter does, that's racial instigating. People will use the term race baiting, but we've covered this. Race baiting is the wrong term. They're instigating racial tension by doing this. Is that how it's going to be in America from now on? You can't tell anybody of color that they're doing anything wrong, or you're going to be painted a racist? How the hell is that going to make the country run better? How is that going to help us? Because seriously, we need to stop harping on the race issue. You don't need to tell a white teacher who has mostly black students complaining about students in general that he's racist. All right? Recognize your kids. They're special to you, but they're not the future fucking leaders of the world. Very few people are. All you can hope for them is to be average at best, achieve as much as is expected of them, and not end up in jail or murdered or a teenage parent. Right? And that goes across all color barriers. I'm not singling out the blacks on that. That's what I want for my daughters, to succeed. I don't think they're going to be president. I don't think they're going to be astronauts. But they're 5 and 3 and I've got some time to wait. And if some teacher tells me my kid's fucking up, if it's a black teacher, I'm not going to go in and go, is this because my daughters are white? If it's a gay teacher, I'm not going to go, is this because my daughters are girls? Huh? Would it be different if they were boys, impressionable boys that you could try to fuck after hours in detention? No, that would be retarded. But that's what Black Lives Matter does. They want you to think, oh, black lives are every bit as important as yours. Only we want preferential treatment. That maybe it's not their intended message, but guess what, folks? That's what they're getting across. That they're not only as important, they're more important and they're special in the regard that they shouldn't be held to the same standards because black people have been oppressed for so long. Slavery was abolished by Abraham Lincoln starting in 1862, and the slaves were all freed by 1865. Only one state held out after the fact, and it was Texas. And that's why they have a holiday called Juneteenth Day, because all the slaves in Texas didn't know they were free, and they found out, and they fucking rioted with good reason. All right? But this is a deeper societal issue. It does not have to do with color. There's more black kids than a white teacher. Who cares? You've got a teacher and students. Students that don't respect the teacher. Students that don't respect authority. Students that could give a fuck less about learning. And the kids that want to be there and they want to grow up and they want to achieve goals and go to college, obtain this knowledge, be well-rounded, beneficial members of society, not gangbangers and NBA players and NFL running backs and shit like that, because that's what it is. It's not racist to say that. Sorry if you think it is. A lot of the kids in the black community, what do they have? They have drug dealers and gangbangers in the poorest parts. What are their role models? Rappers and sports figures. In a predominantly white America in the 70s and 80s, what did we have? Rock stars and sports players. So it's the same thing that white people have. It just seems to be more prevalent with black America. I don't know why. Maybe because they historically have not had all the same advantages. Maybe they think they're not going to get into college and that's all they want. But you also have to examine the stigma of knowledge and success that stems from the black community. My friend, I won't say her name, black, lesbian, war vet, brought her up before. She's getting her master's degree. She's got family that's involved with Black Lives Matter. She tells them, I can't get involved with you guys for this. I don't see it as us versus them. I see it as me focusing on making myself a better person rather than making past societal issues everybody's problem again and harping on the same old bullshit. You can keep grinding the axe of white on black till you're blue in the face, but other countries in the world, they marvel at how much race is an issue in this country. And they should, because we shouldn't be talking about race for everything. It's ridiculous. You can't even say all lives matter, or the head of Black Lives Matter says that's racist somehow. So you want equality, but you want it to be unequal to favor you. That's not equality, all right? The standard of Black Lives Matter and all lives matter, they should be equitable, but they're not. And unfortunately, it's because they refuse to recognize that it's reverse racism. See, this isn't like they're calling it a new civil rights movement. It's not the same as the 60s with Martin Luther King Jr. You want to know why? Because look at Ferguson. They burned and looted and beat the shit out of people. They're killing cops. They're beating up, some cop in New York got beat up just for being white. And the kids came up and they said, do you think Black Lives Matter? These are all black kids. And they beat the shit out of him. What the hell is that? You know how the civil rights movement went in the 60s? Peaceful protest. Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela, who fought for the end of apartheid in South Africa. These people raised up their fist. They spoke strong words. They inspired people. What they didn't do is go fucking burn down neighborhoods and beat up cops and beat up teachers and steal from people in their own community. Black America, you have a fucking problem with yourselves that you refuse to sit there and acknowledge the 800-pound elephant in the room. Black people kill white people more than white people kill black people. And black people kill black people more than anybody kills black people. That's why we have the term black on black crime. It's not a new concept and nobody's fucking surprised about it. It's been going on for decades. And yes, it did start years ago when you were disadvantaged and housed mainly in ghettos. But you know what? You can go anywhere you want in this country. There's societal upward mobility. You can get an education through grants. You can get a good job thanks to affirmative action. Something I think should end because hardworking top candidates are getting fucked because they're not a minority. It's not fair. If you want equality, it has to be across the board. And it starts with small battles like what's going on at Como Park High. All right? You can't go in there and shut down a school because a teacher talks poor about students. He didn't say anything about them being bad because they're black. They were black, and he mentioned they were bad, and he used names to indicate they were black. Now, if he would have used Billy and Susie, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation the same way, but the parents of those kids know their kids are black. And if your kid is in class starting fights, texting, playing games, talking over the teacher, you know how fucking infuriating that is? I have said before that if I wasn't a corrections officer, I want to be an English teacher. I want to be a teacher. I like to talk. That's why I do a podcast. I like to interact. The human experience is so much more than K through 13. Life is a never-ending education in everything. And I want to be a part of that. Do you hear the passion in my voice? I want to help mold young minds because I think I have the right idea that you need to stop harping on color. Slavery is a part of the fabric of American history we will never erase. We will never get rid of it. It's deplorable, and I'm sorry that it happened. I just apologize for some I played no part in. But you can't keep holding it over white America's head and throwing around terms like white privilege. It's not white privilege, it's just more people in the white community have grown up with advantages, and as the generations have gone on, they've passed on the money. And yeah, there's some nepotism in some of the higher learning institutions of the Ivy League schools, but it's not like black people can't get into Yale or Harvard or MIT or Johns Hopkins University. And it goes for the same for people from across the world over. Look at how many goddamn Pakistani and Indian doctors we got. It's not a problem for me, but look at it. Look at all the local media outlets. Within the last year, there has been a rash of minority hires. If you watch KARE 11 or Fox 9 News or CBS News, WCCO, or the local KSTP affiliate of ABC, guess what? Iris Perez was the first one I noticed. Jonathan Chow of KARE 11. You're noticing more blacks, more Asians, more Latinos, more women, but they're diversifying because the country's getting more diverse. The world's getting more diverse. White people will be a minority by the year 2050. They've said it due to all the interracial breeding. It's not a bad thing. It's just what it is. It's statistical information. And to mention that someone is black, it isn't racist. I mean, you can't even make up your mind on what you people want to be called. I get no one should ever call anybody nigger. I don't care. Yes, I've laughed at jokes that contain the word nigger. I'm not okay with the word nigger, and I tell my inmates not to use nigger or nigga around me. All right, that goes for whites and blacks. I don't want to hear that shit. It's an ignorant word that comes from a history of pain and intolerance. And if you want America to respect you, black people, you have to respect yourselves. I don't want to hear you call each other the N-word. It makes me think, what's the point of all this anger at people with my skin color for what we have and what you don't have when you're too busy making fun of yourselves and denigrating yourselves with racial epithets? What the fuck does that accomplish? And then to get all sensitive about it and go, well, We use it as a term of endearment. Great. You've culturally appropriated racism and hatred, changed the suffix, and suddenly it's a term of endearment? Fuck you. That's a cop-out. You can't have it both ways. You can't say nobody says the N-word, but then you all use the N-word. No. See how these issues are all interrelated? Like I said, but it starts with small battles like at the school. So, I support Theo Olson. Maybe some of the ways he authored some of his stories should cause him to have pause for concern. Food for thought. Right? He didn't have to call people Lakeisha and Day-Day, but I guess his wife even said his problem is he wants to be an author. Okay, well, I guess if I was going to name black characters from a lower income area in a poor school district, I guess I would use stereotypically black names, right? The important point here is let go. Let go, Black America. Let go, Black Lives Matter, of your hatred for white people over slavery, over a history of oppression. This country has softened up. We have tried to make amends. There is no ultimate reparations that you can get. It's not like the fucking easy button in the Office Max commercial. You don't just boop and then everybody's got everything they need. I'm not going to say that every black person should just get $1 million in free college and this, that, and the other, and the best job ever. The problem is that you've got this sense of entitlement because you suffered. You think you are owed something now. The Jews don't talk like that, and the Jews have been oppressed more than any other peoples. Do you hear them still fucking harping on Egypt for the way the Pharaoh made the Hebrews build the goddamn pyramids? No. Who owns Hollywood? Jews. That's not right, wrong, or indifferent. It's just a fact. A lot of people in high positions in the entertainment industry are of the Hebrew faith. But guess what? That's in America. You go over to fucking Israel, which God help you if you call it Israel when you're in Israel because the Palestinians want you to call it Palestine. Look it up. 1952. A fucking country or an area of land was taken from the people that were already living there and given to the Hebrews, the Israelites. It's all tribal over there. It's not about nations. That's why ISIS is how it is with the Muslim Caliphate. They have a tribal mentality. They don't think of borders and nations. They think of their tribes, Shiites, Sunnis, all that shit. And it's just like that here. You probably haven't heard me get this amped up on this show before, but I spent a week and a half getting ready to give this rant. I wanted to make sure that I had all my mental I's dotted and T's crossed. Because this is me saying I can't pretend Black Lives Matter is anything more than a socially sanctioned hate group. It's what they are. They hate white people. I don't hate black people, but I hate Black Lives Matter because they give black people a bad name. It's what you're doing. Leave Theo Olson alone. He doesn't need to be fired. And the fact that the superintendent of the St. Paul School District, Miss Silva, acquiesced to Black Lives Matter's request and put him on administrative leave and is even giving consideration to the need to fire him, she is bowing down to their militant tactics that are overstepping the line of good taste and sanity. There's a petition out there, and I signed it. I signed the petition for her to be ousted from her position because she refuses to acknowledge that this racial equity in punishment and discipline is a bad idea. Punish the kids that are bad, but don't have quotas that you can't exceed because you're worried that too many black kids' parents are going to get all butthurt because their kids get in trouble. That's not fair. You need to punish the kids that don't act right, whether they're black, white, or Asian or Latino, or Native American, or some other fucking thing, you know? I mean, the only thing that could ultimately solve this, there's two answers to solving the race issue in America. The first one is preposterous. The second one is from my heart. Number one, Independence Day when the aliens attacked. Yes, we would need aliens to come to Earth and attack all of us to unite all of us. It's preposterous. It's probably never going to happen. I think it's stupid to think that we're alone in the universe, but obviously I think they know what's going on here and they want no fucking part of us, dude. Nothing at all. So, since the aliens aren't going to come here and blow up all the major cities and cause us to all become humans rather than Americans, Canadians, Mexicans, Israelites, Muslims, Sunnis, Shiites, all that shit, all the different borders and divisions between us. Black people that are still angry about all the intolerance over the years, just let it go. I know it sounds fucking crazy. Flip a switch in your brain. If I could wave a magic wand and make everybody just get along, I totally would. All right? You got to forget about slavery. You got to forget about what was going on prior to the 1960s. We have made leaps and bounds in this country to bridge the gap for you to succeed. But the problem is as a subculture of America, you look at poor black communities like on the north side of Minneapolis. They don't like to talk to the police. I hear it all the time from my black inmates from the north side. I don't talk to the police. We solve it in our community. You know what they do? They just don't snitch on each other because they don't want to be thought of as a sellout. And heaven forbid any of them want to get out of the hood and do anything more than play basketball. Like one of the greatest things I've heard any of the north side guys at my job talk about is how those kids just won a state basketball title. What are their grades? What are their prospects for college? What do they want to be when they grow up? What besides playing a fucking game? You need to achieve. You need to be smart. You need to earn your way. That's how you're going to get respected. Shut your fucking mouth and quit crying poor me and accept that it takes a little bit of effort to earn respect in the eyes of everyone else. And that means all of America, not just white people. If all the black people stop bitching about race, stop blaming white people for their problems, put their noses to the proverbial grindstone, elevated themselves out of poverty. Imagine that. Imagine everybody's pulling their weight, trying their ass off, not pointing fingers, not fighting about something as silly as skin color. What if there was like some random new disease and it ate all our skin off? And then we were all just like a layer of dried crust over our muscle tissue. We'd all look the same, right? Because we'd all be the same inside. We just wouldn't have that epidermis. There wouldn't be any melanin or skin pigmentation to divide us. So if you let go of all that, if you stop acting like every person in the hood that cooperates with the police or that goes to college or that gets a job and works hard to support their family is an Uncle Tom. I don't think you're a sellout if you're black and you talk to the cops and you try hard at things. That's what everybody should do. I think everybody of every race should work hard and try to earn their own way instead of living off the government feed bag and blaming other people for their fucking problems. That's not fair. Don't do that to us. I haven't oppressed you. My folks worked hard. I come from a blue-collar upbringing, and that's what I am now. I'm blue-collar. Put myself through college, paid for all my own cars, bought my own house. I paid for my fucking kids. I manned up when I knocked up my ex. I took care of my family. And I still take care of my family even though we're a broken family. That's the measure of a man. The content of your character is measured not by what you do for yourself, by what you do for others. So what you need to do for others is swallow your pride and admit that black people do things wrong sometimes. And just because the cops bust you for doing it doesn't mean that they're racist. That every cop isn't going there and clocking and thinking, I'm going to shoot me some black kids today. As badly as it seems, it's because the media is portraying it that way by sensationalizing statistics. But if more black people are getting in trouble, it's not because we're going out looking for black criminals. It's because more black people are committing crimes. You have to look at it for what it is. Logic should prevail there. There's not racism or prejudice. Maybe in some parts of the South, yes. All right? But by and large, as a whole, in this country, it's not hands across America to hold down the blacks. So stop it. Stop marching on airports. Stop trying to shut down schools. Stop crying about all the fucking violence in your neighborhoods and then not going out and holding the people that you know are firing bullets accountable. Look at little 4-year-old Terrell Mays. My kids are 5 and 3. That kid was 4 fucking years old. Do you hear the passion in my goddamn voice right now? A 4-year-old boy was sitting on a couch and he fucking got shot through the wall because of some goddamn stupid turf war by some adolescent street gangs. And you fucking people have the audacity to cry that you want an end to the violence, but you won't talk to the cops? How long are you going to chase your fucking tails? What is it going to take? Huh? You have to hold yourselves accountable. You can't shake an angry fist at white people and say, stop telling us we're fucking up, you're racist. If you're fucking up, you're fucking up. And it goes beyond skin color lines. Children should not have to worry about being murdered in their own home just watching TV or taking a nap. And I get sick of seeing these mothers on the news from the north side that are crying, hoping that they get justice for their little babies. Somebody please come forward. Somebody say something. Somebody saw something. Somebody fucking knows. And the fact that years have gone by since that kid's murder and nobody said shit, nobody's been held accountable. Are you out of your fucking mind? Do you think I would stand for that shit? If I knew who it was or if somebody around me knew who it was, I would implore them. You're not a snitch. What you are is an arm of justice, a tool of the criminal justice system to punish those who should be punished, to hold them accountable for the horrible atrocities they commit. Whether it's in a rich or a poor neighborhood, whether your skin is white or black. I don't care if you're gay, straight, 100 feet tall, or a fucking midget. Everybody deserves justice. Children should not have to worry about being murdered. And I get it. It's horrible that that's what's in your neighborhood, but it doesn't start with everybody just giving you a fucking handout and magically making it go away. It starts with you taking responsibility and in your own community and taking back your streets and taking back your neighborhoods and making it safe to ride bikes down the street and fucking jump rope on the sidewalk and shoot hoops and all that shit. And it starts with not thinking your kids are above discipline, to not punish good, hardworking, caring teachers. This guy cares. This guy, if he didn't care, wouldn't be bitching on the internet in his blog. He wouldn't be writing these fucking stories to communicate his frustration. He would just go in every day and do a really half-assed job and think, as long as I get enough kids to pass to keep tenure, as long as I keep getting those paychecks, who gives a shit what these little fuckers turn out to be? That's what a teacher who doesn't care says. Theo Olson cares. I care, because that could be me. Because I speak out. Somebody could go and hear this episode right now and go figure out who I am and where I work, which I've never actually said, by the way, because I'm trying to play it smart and exercise my freedom to communicate and express myself without being held to some bullshit standard just because I work for the government. We have a right to communicate in this country, and I'm exercising mine. And I'm asking you, get off of Theo Olson's case. You need more teachers like him that will hold you accountable. And ourselves. Because if I get in trouble, I cop to my shit. When I make mistakes, I own up to it. And you should do that too, by holding your own children accountable. Black Lives Matter. It's not about stifling the conversation about who's at fault because you feel you're being unequally persecuted. It's about taking care of your fucking kids and acknowledging that maybe you've got some shortfalls as a community, but more importantly, as an individual, as a parent. The biggest problem facing Black America today is a lack of accountability and a lack of responsibility. Don't make kids you don't want and can't afford, because it's cyclical, because we're 3-4 generations deep now of people pumping out kids in poverty and just thinking, well, fuck it, I'm not going to take care of them. I didn't want them in the first place. Dads are in jail. Sons are living the same life their fathers did, gangbanging and shit. Put an end to it. Yourself. Don't expect the rest of America to fucking do it for you. So what I want you to do, instead of turning your hatred to Theo Olson, turn it to a system that doesn't actually take serious making the school environment for your children safe. An environment that harbors a sense of education, that it's okay to be smart. You have to own up to your own shit. You got to stop saying it's okay to let black on black crime happen. Maybe you got to go out and become a vigilante group. Look at Mexico. There's vigilante groups that are sick of the narcos, and they went out there and started fucking murdering them. They went to war with their own community. Maybe that's what you need to do. I'm not saying go out there and start killing each other, but rise up. Become a militia of angry voices making peaceful protests. Communicate and work with law enforcement. Get the people that deserve to be in cages put away. Make it safe for your children to grow up and learn. Make the world a better place for yourselves. Don't expect everybody else to save you. I am Jmann. I support Theo. And it's time for everybody to put their pride aside, assess how they're to blame, and make a positive change. Because if you elect somebody like anybody in the presidential race now, we're looking at World War III, and it starts on our own borders. There's a racial civil war going on, and you know what's going on. You can't turn a blind eye anymore. So make an effort. For the What Do We Call It podcast, I'm Jmann. And that's the end.